This is the 2012 MacBook Pro, the unrivaled king of Apple laptops. It is everything Apple hates, from its upgradable RAM to its upgradable storage to how easily serviceable it is, and finally, the sheer number of ports. This laptop is the consolidation of 10 plus years of laptop refinements from Apple. Looking back at the PowerBook G4, you could feel the inspiration 11 years later. Its minimalist and industrial design, spearheaded by Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive, is an elegance that no other laptop manufacturer has been able to match. This laptop was inevitable, but does not change the beauty of the design and the love most Apple fans have for this computer. For me, my 13-inch 2012 MacBook Pro was my first Mac computer, and now I get to experience that joy again. I purchased this laptop on eBay in an as-is state. It was listed with a 2.3 GHz i7, 16 GB of RAM, a 500 GB hard disk drive, and no dedicated graphics card. Here it is. Here's the 2012 MacBook Pro. I'm a bad YouTuber and unboxed it before because I got so excited, but I have not done anything. All I did was charge it up. So we're going to do the first boot now. Oh, did you hear that? All right, it's booting. Oh, that was quick. Okay, I'm gonna get this set up really quick and then let's check out what the specs are. So we are officially into the MacBook and it feels really fast. I feel like, I don't know, the keyboard feels great. That's my first impressions. The keyboard feels great. I've been using the 2021 MacBook Pro keyboard for a while and this feels just as good. I kind of feel like this feels a little bit mushier, but I kind of like the way this one feels. I'm not a keyboard snob at all. Okay, so this is a MacBook Pro 9,1 Intel Core i7, 2.3 gigahertz, and I believe this also has the GeForce GT 650M. Let's see how much RAM this has. 16 gigs of RAM, okay. A 1 terabyte solid state SATA drive. Dude, let's go. So for like 130 bucks, we got 16 gigs of RAM, a 1 terabyte SSD, I'm not even gonna be able to upgrade this, but I believe it has a DVD drive. We can test that out. Hang on a second. All right, I got my favorite movie, The Truman Show, Jim Carrey. Let's see if this works. Oh no. Oh wait, it took it. Oh my gosh. Do you remember when computers had DVD drives? Wow. I'm one of those guys that actually owns the CD, the DVD drive, the Apple Super Drive. I taped this cable to it because I got sick of losing this USB-C. Oh, it didn't work. All right, well, let's get inside of it and see. I think we know what's inside of it, but let's just get inside of it and see. We're missing a couple screws, that's no big deal. All right, so we're inside of it. Oh my gosh, do you remember when MacBooks had this? Is this RAM? I thought this was glued to the motherboard. You know, it's funny, this thing a few years ago was extremely and exceptionally thick. And now compared to my 2021 MacBook Pro, it's definitely thicker, but we're not talking by a whole lot. Like this doesn't feel, this a few years ago felt a lot more unwieldy than it does now. Now that Apple just said, okay, we'll just make really big fat laptops. Let's run some tests and see if this thing can hold up a little bit in 24. Okay, so I ran into this problem when I was using the 2009 Mac Pro, and it's just running an OS that's just too old. It's running Mojave right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use OpenCore Legacy Patcher to upgrade the OS to a more modern OS, probably just one generation behind what we're on now. Look at those speeds. You see that? That's an Ethernet cable plugged right into the computer. Not only an Ethernet, but also a USB Type A. The future's gonna be great. I can't wait to see what we decide to do with ports in the future. It's a couple days later, and I've had the opportunity to play around on this thing, to mess around with it, to try to edit some video, to just use the computer as it is. I was able to get Sonoma installed on this computer. OpenCore is unbelievably simple and very easy to use. I will link it down below, as well as a video I watched to help me do this. I have to say that there's nothing that I like more than a bunch of people who hate Apple practices but love Apple laptops because there's like a perfect mix of spite where they want to beat Apple sort of at their own game, but also they appreciate the computers and they also want to do it because they want the computers to continue on into the next generation. My initial thoughts on this thing are that the battery life, it's not great. The screen isn't bad, the colors are actually pretty good. Resolution isn't great, it's only a 1440 by 900 resolution, so it's not a remarkable display by any means. The viewing angles, like, they're okay, they're not bad unless you're looking at it from the bottom. When you look at it from the bottom, it looks terrible. The next thing I really like is that the keyboard, you can actually adjust the brightness on it up and down, which is really cool. That's a thing that I miss from more modern MacBooks. My MacBook doesn't have that, a 2021 MacBook Pro. The speakers are very thin sounding. I am not an audiophile by any means, but I can tell that these speakers just don't sound very good. I'm used to Apple speakers kind of sounding pretty good. I listen to a lot of my content out of these speakers in my MacBook Pro. And I've had the opportunity to try and edit some video on it. I've been editing a little bit of this video on it, but the reason it's only been a little bit is because it's quite difficult to edit videos on this computer. It's an old computer. I mean, it's from 2012. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I thought it would be able to chug through a 4K timeline like that, but it really struggled to play back at 1/8 resolution. It was kind of usable, but it's kind of not usable at a certain point with the price you're going to pay for this thing. After the price of the computer is going to be anywhere from 100 to 120 bucks, you're going to be buying an SSD, because you have to buy an SSD, you just cannot use a hard drive. That's going to run you anywhere from $30 to $60 on top of that, plus 16 gigs of RAM, which is like really cheap, 100 bucks. But all in, you're talking about like $250. And for $250, there are so many better options that you could spend your money on. I think you could find a Mac Mini M1 for that price somewhere, or you're just gonna have to more or less just wait until you can buy a computer that's just a little bit better if you wanna do something as intensive as video editing or photo editing. I imagine if video editing and photo editing, I can't do that, it's probably not going to be a great compiler of Xcode apps as well. It's a great computer if you want a big screen with average sounding speakers, a good keyboard. If that's something you need, like you want to type, you want to write on it, if you want to just sort of consume content on it, I think that it's a decent computer for that all in, but it takes a while to get everything up and running. It took me an hour 2 nights ago, and then another 2 hours basically of getting Sonoma on this thing. It's kind of a fun project, but it's just a time-intensive task. It's not difficult, but it does take a minute. All in all, it's a very solid computer if you just sort of want to tinker around with macOS. If you want to have some ports, it's really nice having the ports. Just being able to plug my Ethernet cable into it was amazing. Why does it spoil me so much? But all in all, I would say that as much as I like this computer, I have a hard time suggesting it unless you just get it fully upgraded like mine was, 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage, unless you pay about 120 bucks for it at that price. At that price, it's so cheap that you could write an entire book on this thing and be fine. You could just do basic word processing, work for school on it, and you'd be completely fine. It's a great way to step your feet and dip your toes into macOS. But again, it's not a computer you're going to create a whole bunch of stuff on because it's just not that powerful. If you're creating movies that are 1080p, I think this is actually a solid option for sure, especially given the price. But you have to ask yourself, like, is it just not worth it for me to save up another 150 or another 200 bucks to try and get like an M1 Mac Mini? And then there's always a cheap monitor on Facebook Marketplace you could find for like 20 bucks. And then you just sort of slowly upgrade your build. I think that that's a better way to do it. The M1 Mac Mini is going to last you many, many years in the future, whereas this is probably like you're renting it for 6 months to a year until you can buy something else. And that's a noble way to do it. I don't have any problem with that, but I would just maybe say just wait a little bit longer. Obviously there's gonna be a lot of people saying, well, you could just build a PC, and I know that, but you want Mac OS. So, and Hackintoshes I can't stand, they're a pain in the butt, they don't work, I don't like them, never have, never will. Unfortunately, it's not that special. I sort of had planned a video where I wanted to upgrade this thing to the absolute max, but I kind of feel like it's not gonna do anything. I could put another 1 terabyte. I have the parts. So I planned on replacing the disk drive with another 1 terabyte SSD and the disk drive hard drive adapter, but I don't think there's gonna be any real value add to do that. The computer it unfortunately just does not hold up. And that's sad because this is the greatest computer that Apple made in laptop form factor. I think the Mac Pro 2010 is probably the best computer they made, or actually maybe the 2019 Mac Pro is the best computer they made. We'll test that one out later at another date, but this makes me sad. I will say that this is officially a not buy, unless you just need it for very basic things like checking email and word processing. If that's the case, it's a really solid computer. Put an SSD in it, and you'll be good to go. All right, thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. I will be reviewing an iPhone SE 2020. If you want to get subscribed for that, you know what to do. Peace out.